because you don't have that other, you know, you added in that other amount. The only concern I have is there's nobody that's renewed that is in the 7-cent range.
You're in a rising market.
No, I know, but even that just renewed, I understand that. So if I look at the dates of who just renewed, my only concern, which I'm trying to express to the mayor is, I don't see anyone, I see, you know, I don't see, that's my only concern is.
What type, can I ask, what kind of rates are you seeing?
Well, it's hundreds of, there's all the municipalities are at pluginillinois.org. And you can sort them and dice them and slice them, and I haven't done that, but my only concern is I'm not seeing that kind of a rate here. So I was the one that sort of thought about renewing, and I know I put you down that line, and you went and found all that out, which is great. And I understand that there's a provision to opt out, which is exactly what we want. I'm just looking at this website with all of the aggregation statistics, and it's
It's
just.
the one that's listed alphabetically.
Yeah, it's called pluginillinois.org, and,
Municipal aggregation list.
yeah, it's their public list, and it has the rates, the contract, and all of that. So, I'll go anywhere you guys wanna go. I think, you know, I just see the rate, and I'm looking at the 7.1, and, you know, I understand what you're saying, Rich. You're saying the people that just renewed, first year out are at 7, yeah, in the 6s, right?
The rates that were coming in maybe a month ago were in the 6s. In the last 2 weeks, they've been up into the 7s.
Right, Vernon Hills here is just, they're 2017, and they're at 6.6, and they're with Constellation. So that merits out, the Constellation is definitely in that price range, but some of these other guys are, you know, like this one, well, that one's, you know, it's hard to tell. So I understand exactly what you're saying. It seems like Constellation is different than the others.
Yeah, I see that here. Yeah.
Wheeling's the same way, so just food for thought.
The Vernon Hills one, their Constellation 6.621, their new contract goes to May 2017. I think they have zero, I can't find what the heading is for that column.
We have that paper that you're looking at?
I just have the one copy I printed out.
But you can go on the website and get it.
It's worldwideweb.pluginillinois.org.
I mean, what do you guys think?
Unfortunately, it's kind of like the stock market, you know, it's like, it's all about timing. And I mean, I like the idea of the extension, on one hand, because it preserves some of the good terms of the contract.
Right.
That I think are favorable to our residents. And there's no downside, because no matter what happens,
You can always go back.
you can always go back. They can always choose who they want. And, you know, if they find a better provider, they can do it. You know, I'm reluctant to go out 36 months because, you know, I'd hate to all of a sudden make that decision, all of a sudden, 3 months from now, have to go down to 6 cents. So, but unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball, so.
If it did that, then we just, as a village, notify him we're terminating the aggregation.
Right, I mean,
And
so-
we cut everybody loose back to combat at 6 cents, and thank you for helping us out for whatever.
And unfortunately, we're dealing in a world with expertise that we don't really have, in the sense that we don't really know where this is all going. But I like the terms of the contract. I think it's favorable to our residents. I don't necessarily have a problem with extending it, because I'd like to keep those terms. If I knew if we went out to bid, we'd get much better quotes, I'd definitely propose that. But from what it sounds like in listening to council, the rates are going up, they're not coming down. And so we may get ourselves in a situation where we wouldn't get better rates, but.
One thing I want to recognize trustee O'Loughlin first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is possibility just to go out to Cory tomorrow, just, you know, tell him what we're seeing on this website as far as the different rates, and see if he can come down.
A little wrinkle, and we'll ask council if we can work this with the resolution. It was suggested to me by the gentleman at Constellation, again, going back to the concern that they have they want to know that you're going to be able to act almost immediately when they give you a quote. And they're not going to give you a quote and then wait 10 days or 2 weeks for you to act on it, because the energy market has changed how many times in between. The suggestion was that, can the board authorize myself as the village president to enter into, within the next few days, that's the way he phrased it to me, Rich, at rates no higher than what they presented today, but let's say Monday morning or Monday, the energy market pulls back a little bit, and they know we have some leeway where they can call up and say, okay, here's the rate today, instead of 7.1, it's 6.85 or 6.9, that we have, somebody in the village has authority to say, with the blessing of the board, go ahead and do that.
I mean, personally, I have no problem with that. I mean, I think, I'm not gonna speak for anyone else, I think most of us don't have a problem with that. I just don't know if I'm comfortable with 12 months, 24, or 36. That's what I'm struggling with. I mean, and I really don't like that we go out to bid, because I think it comes back much worse in many ways, so.
I tend to go out to bid and get it set up such that, again, it would have to, we're talking, I don't know how long it would take to go out to bid and give them enough time. It's not gonna happen for May 8th. And who knows what the market will be when we convene in June for our board meeting. And they're not even gonna take seriously to push the pencil to calculate an estimate until they see what the energy market is within a day or two of whatever date our June board meeting is.
Like you said, the rates are like anything else, gasoline or anything like that, they're gonna keep going up, so 2 years from now, it might be 10 cents for all we know now.
I think, and I keep coming back, and I think I understand where Trustee Walsh is coming from. The best rate for our residents right now, from what their quote, is the 36-month agreement at 7.1 cents per kilowatt hour. So we would start out with that rate, and we would be locked into it for 3 months, except for the initial 21 day opt-out period to residents. Anybody who doesn't want to take that chance, they can get out now. And then thereafter, if it drops, the comment rate drops below that, you can notify them we're terminating the agreement, and everybody is cut loose back to ComEd. And I think we said that along the 3 years, even if we don't terminate it, the residents can still terminate on their own. Okay. So, that's those are a couple equities to think. I personally see that as safeguards for the proposal. And we've talked about it, and we've already had the time for having the residents' questions or comments, but let me ask, let me open it right now for a couple minutes for the residents. It's only about the aggregation.
You can always get out of it, Rich, no matter what.
Right.
Individually, you can go tomorrow, job out of it. So there's no downside. Whether you sign for 3 months or 3 years or 1 year, it makes no difference. As an individual, we can get out of it. So there's no problem.
I second that, that's true. 20 years ago, I was buying gas from the oil wells in Oklahoma, having them piped into Chicago and then into my plant. And I saved close to $100,000, and there are fluctuations, like you said. But like Bob said, there's pluses to this whole situation here, in the sense that if the market holds, we're here, or whoever wants to opt out, there is that opt-out clause.
And
Twice.
And could you say your name and
My name is Milan Sivic, I live at 26 Stoneheart Lane, here in Indian Head Park.
Okay, thank you, Milan. And you know
Bob
the
Pierce.
person.
Also, the point is, I've gotten phone calls, and maybe you have too. The price they give you, that's good for now, they're talking on the phone. Tomorrow, it could be higher or lower, you don't know. That's the problem. It's a fluctuating market, like the commodities. But there's no downside to signing for 3 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go back to trustees. I asked for the motion to approve the resolution recommending the 36-month time period. You write it down.
I made the motion.
Norm and Tom. Thank you. So, any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, please call the roll.
Trustee Schnapper.
Yes.
Trustee Hinshaw.
Yes.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Trustee Walsh.
Yes.
Trustee Wittenberg.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Not so easy choice, but good discussion, good input, thank you. The last, actually, the next item on the agenda is approval of an ordinance amending Title II entitled Administration and Personnel of the Indian Head Park Municipal Code by amending Section 2.08.040 entitled Powers and Duties of Chapter 2.08 entitled Village Administrator and adding Chapter 2.70 entitled Purchasing. For the sake of moving to discussion, I will refer to this as the Purchases Agreement ordinance. And I would entertain a motion to approve this ordinance or such other as you have any thoughts about. Trustee Walsh.
I would like to make a motion that we continue it, and here's my thought on it. I would like to get some input from our village administrator, what his thoughts on this, and his recommendations as well. And when this came about last time, Frank Alonso was gonna give us some information. I don't know if we ever got the information. I'm in favor of such an ordinance, but I don't know if we ever fully exhausted, the dollar amounts and the reasons behind it. And I think it's a good idea. I think we should pass it, but I'd like to get some input from our new village administrator. And I spoke briefly with John before the meeting, and he has not had a lot of chance to look into the dollar amounts we propose. And maybe over the next month, he can look at it and give us some food for thought on what he thinks. I think at that point, we can make a better informed decision. So I guess I would make a motion to table it till next meeting, and then at that point, we can vote on the ordinance.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Motion to table the discussion of ordinance amending the codes with respect to purchasing ordinance by trustee Walsh, second by trustee Schnapper. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any chair? The ayes have it. So that ordinance is tabled to the May 8th meeting. And our last agenda item is the discussion and possible vote regarding the use of a collection agency to collect fines from village citations owed to Indian Head Park. Chief Brooks.
As part of my duties, I've been evaluating all the services within the village here, and this is just an option. It was brought to my attention with regard to, and I haven't discussed this with council yet, and I plan on doing it. We've got outstanding parking tickets, violations for the village, and there's not a lot of enforcement in how we're gonna get the money back. And I'm looking at options, and I made some brief phone calls to some villages, and I said, who are you using for the purposes of getting, revenue back that we're owed? And basically, I had our records administration look at how many tickets we have outstanding. We've got about 141 unpaid tickets. 106 of these are approximately $70, and 35 of these tickets are $100 or more. And that could be handicap parking, village stickers.
Could you say the number of tickets again?
Sure. I have 106 tickets at least $70, and I have 35 tickets at $100 or more. For a total of 141. That totals about $10,920. So, in looking at that, I read a little bit about the history within the village of how we're going to get this money. options. They've sent letters in the past, I'm just going by historical information that's been told to me. How do we get this money back? And you send letters, they don't respond back. And so I made some telephonic notifications to various village administrators and police chiefs. And they gave me just 3 local folks who they use, and they have different rates. And most of these are month-to-month operations. And all the trustees have copies of these collection services. Essentially, there's 3 of them. One of them is Armor Systems Corporation. They have a request for proposal, collection services. They do everything from traffic, parking, compliance, utility, judgments, ambulance, so forth and so on. They're out of Zion, Illinois. They collect, as I read it, 20%. So if they get a $100 ticket, they'll collect $20, and the rest will be remitted back to the village. That's just one firm, and these are not even contracts, they're like month to month. So the next one I had is Illinois Collection Service. They're another firm. I reached out to them, they're in Tinley Park. And most of these there's a lot of villages that use them. For example, in Illinois, this particular company, ICS Collection Service, Oaklawn, Westmont, Evergreen Park, Palos, Marionette Park, on and on and on, Village of Franklin, Burbank, Westmont, they charge 28% as a collection fee. And the last one is MCSI, Municipal Collection Services, Inc. They are out of Palos Heights. Similar communities, LaGrange, Willow Springs, Bridgeview, Lyons, Hickory Hills, Summit, on and on and on. Their fee is 35%. So this is just an option. A lot of municipalities use these firms as just a mechanism to, get the village the money that's owed to them, without the village spending resources to skip tracing and making contact and sending letters out and not getting responses. Most of these firms will abide by the rules, and then by sending this out to a prospective client or an individual, they will then, in about 45 days, report it to a credit agency, to like Asperion or Equifax, and they will report on your credit that you have a delinquent, and it will go on your credit report, that it's in collection. So it's an option, and villages are using it, and pretty successfully. So that's just 3 companies I contacted just locally. There are probably many, many more, but you can see that, 20%, 28, and 35%, so it's pretty much in the ballpark. It's just an option for the village to look at. And I think maybe as time moves on, maybe for next year, the fiscal year, we might even get even more. So if we collected all this, I'm not saying that we are, we could get $5,000–6,000 very easily right back into the village. And, without spending the resources of having somebody within the parking division sending letters off, and us working on sending this and not getting a response. It's just an option. So this was brought to my attention. Just evaluate it, look at it, see what we want to do. I'll discuss it with council and say, hey, is this something we can do in this village? And a lot of folks use it, and they find it comfortable.
Sure.
Chief, I'd like to recognize Council Mullo on this. Refresh my memory, we had talked with, or worked on this when Frank Alonso was our chief and administrator.
Yes, former Administrator Alonso contacted Armor Systems, I think maybe 2–3 years ago, and we attempted to work out a collection agency agreement with them, and were unsuccessful. They were unwilling to comply with some Illinois statutes that they're required to comply with. But other than that, in fact, I think the council back then recommended that we try to work out a collection agency agreement with them. I think the attractive thing with Armor was their fee was lower than the other collection agencies. But may well be that they've changed their policies, and you might be able to work out an agreement with them today. But I just want to give you the history.
Okay. So,
Thank you, gentlemen. It was good.
That is great. Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
we heard that before I even asked for a motion. Just a direct staff to eventually a resolution to approve.
Right, I think you try to work out an agreement with one of these agencies, if you're okay with, you can start out with the cheapest and work your way to the highest that you want, or.
Well, couldn't you just do a spot agreement and try it out?
If they'll agree to it, yes,
Yeah,
no
I
problem.
mean, if month to month, why make it some big formal thing, let's try it and see how it goes.
No, the problem was, there's certain statutory requirements that the state of Illinois, the laws of the state, require in every municipal contract. And
Right, but if you don't have a contract where you're doing a month-to-month agreement, if it's not a contract, it's,
That's still a contract, yeah.
You have got standards, I think, probably the Fair Credit Reporting
right,
Act.
but that's pretty standard now, isn't it?
It's clearly standard, it's clearly an Illinois statute
Yeah.
required, and for whatever reason, in the past, we did not
Yeah.
want to agree to those.
Well, I'm sure these other municipalities around here have gone through a lot of that, spot contracts, and I'm sure one of those three would be great.
I think I would be concerned though about liability, of having these collection agency working basically as an agent for the village to collect.
No, I understand, but you can just do a spot contract for a month and see how it goes with the provisions that.
Yes, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that the prior experience has been, they won't agree to the contract with the state law requirements.
Well, let's see what
Whether
they
it's,
say.
well, exactly. So I would entertain a motion to direct staff to contact the collection agency, these three, at least work through them, to see if we could reach an agreement to employ their services to collect unpaid fines over the village.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Walsh, second by trustee Henshaw. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. John, and Rich, you got your direction. Okay. Good. Questions or comments from the audience? Name and address.
14 Algonquin. I recently had occasion to have a conversation with one of our officers. I had
One of our
called.
what? I'm sorry.
An
Officers?
officer, a police officer.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I hear the word.
I had called about illegal parking on the north side of Algonquin. They park down in front of building 10 and 12. The no parking sign is in front of 14. And the officer was nice enough to call me after I saw him go to the cars, and he was writing something. And he told me that because of the placement of the sign, he could not issue these people tickets where we could collect them. And he could only give them warnings, and that he had tried to get the sign moved down in front of 10 where it should be, so that these people would not park there. And I previously, several years ago, tried to get this sign moved, and it was never moved. Could the sign please be moved down in front of 10, so that the officer wouldn't waste his time coming out there? He could actually write a ticket and stop these people from parking illegally.
Do you,
And-
do you recall the officers?
No, I don't.
Do you know what approximate date that,
That was about 6 weeks ago or so.
okay, we
Yeah.
could sure look at that and find out exactly what, and, you know, ask them.
And
I
I'm
can
sure
check
he's
into it.
tired. He called me. He was nice enough to call me because he's probably tired of my calling and he can't do anything. So finally, he decided he should tell me that he's not writing these people tickets, he's only writing them warnings.
Okay,
And this has been going on for years already.
you have like an approximate address, so I can,
Well, I live at 14,
is this Algonquin?
and I'm the third building in on the east side of Wolf Road. So they park down at 10 and 12, they never get to the sign, because they do a U-ey right in front of Potawatomi and turn around and park on the north side of the street. And my concern has always been, if somebody parks on the north side and somebody's parking on the south side, you come around into our entranceway, you've got one lane of traffic. So I can conceive of an accident happening.
Sure.
Because,
We'll gladly look at it and, see
yeah,
what
I
happens.
mean, all it means is digging up the sign, taking it down, digging another hole and a sack of concrete and, you know, you're good to go.
That require us to, any kind of action on behalf of moving it in any way?
Well, I'd investigate the situation.
Yeah. Just wondering. if we-
Find out what's happening, where's
Sure.
the sign, and what's the rationale for
It actually needs to check the sign ordinance and find out what the covenants say for that subdivision, and then we'll put the signs up, and it should be in our village code. And if the sign needs to be moved, that's easy.
Well, the officer must have based his opinion on something, and the fact that he told me he tried to get the sign moved. I don't know who he talked to, but
Take a look at it and.
thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Okay. Right here.
Milan Simic at 26 Stonehearth Lane, I live here in Acacia. I want to say it's a great meeting. Mayor Andrews and board, thank you very much for your service up there. And it was a very informative meeting. The other thing I wanted to do was end on a positive note. I'm one of these people that have 2 drains, water drains at the end of my driveway. That's where all the water comes in from Stonehearth Lane. And one of them was collapsing. I made a call to the water department. Within 2 hours, Ed was out there. He not only saw, but he gave me a action plan and exactly what he was gonna do to make that repair. So you can't ask for anything better than that, as far as a quick service and a 2-hour phone call, and, you know, the job gets done. So I wanna say thank you, and give you some positive feedback to the job well done, so.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments directed toward the board. It's a team effort, so we appreciate that. And thank you for the comments on Superintendent Sam. And Ed, good job.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Anything else?
Blue maybe 6501 Pine. I kind of wanted to echo what I heard behind me. I mean, it's a long meeting, but it's been nice to sit here and listen to the board talk about executing a road plan and proactive ideas for, you know, the water mains, you know, compared to where we've been in the past, where we're wondering how we would even get money. So thanks for that. So it's nice to sit here and hear about improving the village. I also have a very quick question. I guess this would be for Mr. Vanderbilt. And this is a very uneducated question, so I apologize. But when you were talking about the reconstruct of the roads and the mill and overlay, you were also talking that curbs where necessary would be replaced? Or-
Right.
Yeah, I guess my definition of a curb is like a cement edging that's raised. You know. What about parts of the village where there are no existing curbs? Are we gonna put curbs in, or I'm assuming there's reasons for no curbs? And because I live in Old Town, I don't think we have many curbs. So when they do those roads, they're gonna do them as they are now, or?
Correct.
Okay,
If there's no curb and gutter,
okay.
there will be no curb gutter.
Okay.
There was a, you know, about on Peacock, there's all those bushes on the residential side, not the creek side. Is that gonna present quite a challenge for us? Or not? You just
No.
burn right through?
Well, I think they're obviously not growing in the road.
Well, a lot of them are, I mean, I walk
Well,
over
they
there,
may be hanging
they are
over.
very close to them, so I just wondered, you know, it's gonna,
They'll get, the contractor will trim
Trim
back,
back.
so we can get a sequence
Yeah.
through there.
Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So maybe.
Made by trustee Schmacher, second by trustee Washington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good work to the board. And thank you for the comments of the residents.
No problem.